fancy. My watch has its own stand on my desk, and pretty much the whole thing charges in 5 minutes, and it lasts for a whole month. So ask me about if it tracks my heart rate, or my breaths, or how many sets, or how fast I went on a wave. I'll tell you all the metrics, because I know them all, because of my watch that my wife gave me.
See that rando fly moving around the room?
Flies.
Flies.
What did Wilder used to say? Well, fly? I don't know.
Flies. I don't know.
I don't know.
Flies.
Flies.
Okay, what's up, guys? It's been a hot minute. We've been buried underneath a lot of things.
We've been trapped in a glass case of emotion.
What is it? Traveling, people in town,
Yes, getting
baby
sick.
stuff, getting sick,
Yeah, all the fun
business
things.
stuff. Yeah, all those things. But today, I wanted to interview Sammi. Why? Not just because I'm sick and feeling terrible. No, you would be very wrong if you thought that. Mostly because I think it'd be really fun, and we've gotten so many questions about her life, like on her Instagram and on our email list, and life updates change, I think, so dramatically at this at this stage in our lives. There's always updates, you know what I mean? But I think it'd just be fun to dive into your life and some of the things that you feel like have grown and changed you. Maybe jump into some vulnerable questions about our relationship, parenting, wilder content creation could be fun too. Running a business as a mom. Well, I'd say you're not really running a business.
Yeah, that'd be a stretch.
Yeah, you're participating in the content of a business.
I feel exhausted just thinking about trying to run a business.
Yeah.
For even 2 additional hours per week.
Yeah.
Like, that feels like a stretch.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Well, why don't you just tell me first, how's life? How's life going? Like, where do you feel like you're at in life right now? Like, are you enjoying yourself? Are you enjoying the stage of life you're in? Is that like a highly nuanced question? But if I ask that to you, like, what comes to your mind?
I think I feel like anxiety, even at the question.
Why?
Because I want to feel like I'm thriving right now, because I'm so used to being able to feel powerful.
Yeah.
And like getting to a place where I'm connected to myself, feeling like I'm overflowing. I spent 10 years like learning how to get my needs met, and learning how to be the best version of myself. And though there was always room for growth before having a baby, it feels so much harder to take care of myself now. And it feels so much harder to feel full. It feels so much harder to have the connection with God that I want. And I feel so many different things pulling me in different directions internally. Like,
what are some things, like, just before we jump into that, like, what are some things you used to do to take care of yourself that feel like difficult to access now?
Oh, well, like just having unlimited time to journal and spend time with God and go for a walk by myself and not have a baby wanting milk and wanting to pull my hair and pinch on me and touch me and whining for food and, all the things. It's like the constant list of needs, which I wouldn't have it any other way. Here's part of my conflict is like, there are so many hard parts about motherhood, and I know that it wouldn't feel as hard if I found a way to stay full.
Yeah.
But I'm constantly battling, trying to get full and feeling depleted and wanting to overflow onto my baby and feel like a present, loving mom.
Yeah.
And take care of all his needs. But I have such a hard time taking care of my own needs. And so it's full to overflow and feel like I'm always as patient and connected as I want to be.
If you had a full self-care day, what would you do tomorrow?
Oh, all the things. I would go and spend probably 2 hours with myself and God in a coffee shop and just sit and journal and listen to music.
What kind of questions would you ask yourself or ask God?
We're going to go on too many rabbit trails, man.
We're jumping granular stuff, because this is the stuff that I'm like, when I hear interviews, I'm like, stop, slow down.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? Journaling means like 1,000 different things to people.
Well, first, I always start my journaling just getting super honest. here are all the things I'm feeling. Here's the pain. Here's
Truth telling.
Yeah, here's what I'm struggling with. And it's me talking to me and also talking to God at the same time, but like getting really clear. And it almost like journaling is my conversations with God, but on paper. And it helps me stay focused because I'm in conversations with God all throughout the day, but I'll start a conversation and then I get distracted. And so it's like I never get to finish the conversation with God. Mm-hmm. And finishing the conversation is the good part. Like not just God, I'm inviting you into this area, or God, I'm struggling with this, or God, I want to feel full and I'm feeling shame that I don't know how to take care of myself. Like waiting until it's like, okay, God, how do you see me? What is getting full look like in this season? God, how are you loving me while I'm struggling, while I'm busy, while I'm distracted? How are you meeting me in motherhood? What are you doing in my heart in motherhood? How are you wanting to love Wilder through me? How are you wanting to prepare my heart to be his mom? I'd want to get to move past just being honest with God, but honesty is like a core important thing that I think starts that conversation.
Yeah. Are you feeling as much anxiety about this fly flying around the room as I am? I can't think because this guy is like...
He's on a mission.
He's like, it's a mutiny.
This is a demon sent by the devil himself to distract us. Get away from my kombucha. Oh, man. So, yeah, it's like I want to be able to sit and journal and get really honest about all the things that I'm feeling. And a lot of the time, I might be aware of the first layer of what's happening in me, how I'm feeling. But I typically need to ask my heart, how are you doing? Heart, what are you feeling today? And then I typically learn a whole lot more that's going on with me. But I can't access it whenever I don't have time to slow down, be still, and actually listen. But once I am aware of, oh, wow, yeah, this thing happened and I'm aware of this, and this thing that Spencer did actually hurt me more than I realized, and it's coming up in this moment. And I realized I had anxiety in this area of motherhood, but I didn't realize the extent of it or when it started or where it came from. And so I like to get to the root of all of the things that are swirling in me all day long that I'm often too distracted to fully process through. And then I always write in like quotation, and I do like my quote marks, and then I'm like, God, what are you saying to me about this? Or I might write the question, God, what are you saying? And then I just will literally sit and trust what I hear and write it all down, even if I'm questioning, doubting, even if I am not agreeing with what I'm hearing, because there are times that I'm like, man, is this just me? Is this God? But always, 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 whenever I read back what he wrote, it hits me deeper than the first time I wrote it down. It
sounds like a lot of your questions are deep connection questions, not just, God, where do you want us to live? What do you want me to do in this next season? What am I supposed to do today? Who do you have in front of me to do today? I'm saying it in a funny voice because I kind of make fun of like, if that's the only way you're praying, you're missing out on like the whole picture.
Yeah. Directional instead of connectional.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I see so many Christians that are still orphaned but don't know it, and they talk to God all the time about things that he doesn't care about as much as they think that he does. Yeah. And
not to say he doesn't care, but that he cares so much more about our heart and intimacy with him.
Well, I'll just say this. It goes through our filter. If I have a belief system that what I do matters more than who I am, then I'm going to engage God through that lens. Yeah. But it sounds like you've learned over the years that you matter so much more to God, and you've also learned that what you do is impacted so greatly
by who I am.
By meeting him.
Well, by meeting him and getting to see myself the way he does. Yeah. Like whenever I can make my heart matter, like, and I let that be my focus of like, oh, you want to love me. Yeah. Oh, you want to pull me back into my identity. Oh, and then when I'm connected to my identity and I feel full and I feel loved by you and I'm overflowing that love, because we can only love because he first loved us. Mm-hmm. So, and then the first commandment's love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, strength. And so it's like, okay, I can get loved by him, give that love back to him, And then I can overflow that love exchange onto the world around me.
Yeah.
And then what I do carries so much more weight and power because I'm doing it from identity and not for identity anymore. So it's remembering that no longer does he call me slave, he calls me friend.
Yeah.
And like no longer am I an orphan, but I'm his daughter and he loves me. And so it's coming back home to, oh, I matter so much to you.
Yeah.
And if I can spend time marinating in the truth of your voice and who you say I am, then everything else gets accomplished. It's like seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else will be added to you.
Yeah.
It's like, I think I've truly yielded to that in my life. I know that I know every time I even try to go create content and I'm not full, I have this huge wall and block that comes up because I'm like, if I'm sitting here trying to produce something in my own strength, it's gonna fall flat.
Yeah.
I want to do it from overflow, and then it feels so much more life-giving, and then it doesn't matter how many likes or how many shares or what it turns into or if I get opportunities from it. It's like, oh no, that was just an extension of my God time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I remember having like so many clients be like, yeah, but when I ask God questions, like I hear, it's hard to hear him, or like I hear things that I know are not him because it's like shaming, or like he just sounds hard. Sometimes it can be helpful for people, to identify what are those voices. Like, is that yours? Does that remind you of your mom? Mm-hmm. Does that remind you of your dad, a spiritual leader that affected you growing up? Sometimes it's important to weave through what are the other voices too, and stack it up against the love of Jesus and what you see in Scripture about him, and let that theology lead to what Damon Thompson calls a theophany, an experience with him. But I think sometimes people need to like help with their theology too. Like for me, I grew up Baptist, which was not like your upbringing. And so sometimes when I go to ask questions, I need to get to a place of remembrance, not like newness, but like remembrance of what he's like and who he is before I even ask those questions. It's like, oh yeah, I haven't connected with you this week because I blamed you for my own shame, inadequacy.
Yeah.
And so I need to actually take ownership for like, that was never your voice. What are you saying, God? And that's a part of the truth telling, right? It's like, I think the voice that I think, like I'm scared you're going to say.
Yeah.
I'm scared this voice is you, God, but what do you say? It's like that level of truth telling is really important in that journal time, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I remember a big thing that I needed to strip away was this belief that I had to pursue God, not that he wanted to pursue me, but that I was the one who had to do the work to get to him.
Yep.
And actually Jesus already did all of the work. So why am I sitting here thinking that I need to strive to cultivate this intimacy with you that you've already paid for with your blood on the cross?
Yeah.
All I have to do is receive it. But I realized that I was projecting my belief around my relationship with my dad, who I love and has done the best that he's known how to show up. But he also didn't have parents who knew how to love and pursue him. Yeah. And in my life, he's thought he's done me a favor by creating space and sitting back and waiting for me to come to him, because he wanted to give me my privacy, and he always thought that he was, a burden. He remembers his parents bothering him, and he remembers just wanting to be left alone.
Right.
So he thought that I wanted the same thing. And yet when I look back throughout my life, there are so many moments where I needed the pursuit and intentionality of a loving father to teach me my worth and teach me my value and be that representation of the heart of God. And though my dad did his best, I had a gaping hole in my heart of feeling loved and pursued.
Yeah.
And so I projected that experience onto God for the longest time. The first 6 years of my relationship with God was me constantly paving the way into us having intimacy and doing the work. And
so that got triggered. Yeah. You felt like the one that had to do it all.
Yeah.
Do the heavy lifting.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I had to own that and get honest about that, and even took a season where I was like, okay, I'm not going to fight for our connection the same way that I used to, because I'm doing it from a lie that I'm believing. I'm doing it from a deficit of believing that I have to do the work.
Which causes striving.
And so I'm actually going to sit back and say, God, how are you pursuing me today?
Yeah.
I've believed that I have to pursue you, that you don't pursue me. Tell me your truth.
I've made you out to be passive, and I know you're not. Show me. Yeah. What I don't know about this.
Yeah. And it's an art too. Like it's an art of learning like how to get really honest with God, but then with that honesty, how to ask the right questions. Not that there are, I don't want to say like there's right questions and wrong questions, but it's more like, how do I make my question invitational? You know, because it's like, if I ask God, why are you not showing up for me today?
Yeah.
Because I have that same belief that I have to pursue him and he doesn't pursue me.
It's like
then how can God answer that question when it's not true? Because I'm saying, God, why are you not showing up for me? There's assumption and accusation and a lie in the phrasing of that question. So instead, flipping it, God, how are you showing up for me today?
It's actually an interrogation technique to have somebody that you're interrogating in a room and say, why did you kill her? Trying to get a confession.
Right.
Right. It's like we bring that to him. It's like, no, you've already ascribed assumption and blame, and you're demanding an explanation for why. And I've noticed a lot of times when we bring why questions to God, we end up either hearing nothing or making up something. Yeah. Because I think he's so much less in that. Because he's like, I actually don't want to reach your logical mind right now. I want to reach your heart. I want to reach you in the places that you're actually, there's emotion. You're scared. You feel alone. You feel sad. You feel terrified of abandonment, rejection. I want to reach that little boy or little girl that you don't know how to connect with. That's why I think the work that I feel like we've done on ourselves, and I call it work, but it's more of a letting go of all the things that we've acquired over our lives that have gotten in the way.
And like there was so much learning that went into doing that, which is why we packaged it into a course so that people could learn it in a shorter amount of time than it took us to learn. Yeah. But it is work because you're actually having to fight to confront all of your normal. Yeah. That homeostasis, where I was thinking about this yesterday, where it's like change is so hard because we have built our entire inner world and security and sense of self on a lot of lies. Yeah. And anytime we're going to confront that, we're getting uncomfortable. And our soul is actually the enemy of discomfort. Like discomfort, sorry, let me rephrase this.
It's good.
Discomfort is the enemy of our soul. Yeah. Like our flesh really wants comfort. And so it takes a lot of intention and courage and strength and bravery to actually be willing to confront that, to create the change, which is part of what I feel like I'm in right now in motherhood, where I am trying to be gracious with myself and recognize that this is a hard time and that I have hormonal changes that have been happening for the last several years, and I'm functioning in an entirely new way, and I have way more distraction, way less ability to get my needs met, way less time, way less energy, and yet I'm wanting to do more. Yeah. I'm wanting to feel full. I want to love you well. I want to love our baby well. I want to impact the world. I want to have amazing time with God. I want to be creating and staying rested while also getting all the stuff done that needs to be done around the house. Like there are so many things pulling me in different directions, and I'm in this tension of, okay, I want change right now. I'm feeling internally conflicted often. I'm feeling like I'm not doing enough often. I'm feeling like I am uninspired and depleted frequently. And I don't know how to break past that barrier, but I want to give myself time to adjust to motherhood, and I want to be gracious with myself and have compassion on myself. Yeah. But also, how do I tap into more? Like, how do I thrive in motherhood? Like, what does it look like? I haven't seen a mother with young children thrive. If I look at all of the women around me, I've just never seen anyone do it. I've seen them thrive whenever they have no more babies and toddlers, or maybe when they're on their third or fourth kid and that kid is a toddler and becoming more independent.
Or so if they're on their second or third or fourth or fifth child, it's like, oh, you've gotten it. But Wibbit on their first child.
No, not just their first child. I'm talking about like even women with more than one.
But would you say that's probably more common? Like, because I have seen women,
Yes.
it's like they're on their fourth and I'm like, oh, it's like a breeze. And the way they show up and those types of things.
But those women that I've talked to and connected with, there's still so much internal struggle.
Got it. So it's
They've got it down. They're used to, like, they know what's expected of them. They're
Yeah.
used to responding to needs. They're in a groove. There's nothing new. I
Yeah.
do think it's a bigger change and shock when you go from 0 babies to 1 babies. But I personally haven't seen anybody that I've done life with or heard from where I've watched them thrive with babies.
We should find somebody and bring them here and talk to them.
Yeah. If you feel like you're a mom and you're listening to this and you're like, I have babies that are in the baby season and I'm also really connected to God and I'm also impacting the world around me while thriving in motherhood, being a stay-at-home mom.
Not like externally, like internally. You actually feel like you have been deeply thriving
Yep.
in that stage.
It's like I can't figure out what that block is because I so badly want to be able to do it all. I want to do marriage really well,
Yeah.
motherhood, connection to myself, connection with God, and impact the world around me.
Yeah.
And there isn't enough time in the day. And so I'm internally conflicted. I'm still trying to answer your
Yeah.
first question.
I know.
I'm internally conflicted frequently. And even right now, like in the last few days, I've been trying to strategize like a calendar of like, okay, if I work out 3 days a week and the other days that I'm not working out, I focus on X, Y, and Z. And I distribute things throughout the week and don't try to chip away at things necessarily daily. Will I feel like I can get some more momentum and feel powerful? Like, is my internal conflict just a mismanagement of time? This is what I've wondered. But I'm conflicted often with feeling like I'm actually getting the momentum that I want to get.
I think it's multiple compounded things though too, right? Like we've talked about this with community. Mm-hmm. Like that has a heavy impact, I think, on your sense of well-being. Mm-hmm. Connection to God, probably unresolved stuff that just having children brings up.
Yeah.
That it's like, well, why would I have ever processed through this
Totally.
when the trigger literally was activated by having a kid?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think there's like so many compounding events. Time could definitely be one, you know, not knowing how to manage time, take care of your heart. One thing I was going to highlight when you were talking too, has been a block for both of us, is wanting to be the good spouse, wanting to be the good parent, wanting to be the good, inspiring leader. And sometimes that can be the block too, is like functioning from a place of wanting to be those things versus, no, I actually want to rest in being a son or a daughter.
Yeah.
I actually want to rest in being a son or daughter that's allowed to have mistakes and can be loved in the midst of that versus that like external demand on you need to be something. It's like that little thing saying like, but a responsible husband would do this, or a responsible wife would do this, right?
It's rooted in shame.
Yeah.
And like anytime you're doing anything from shame, you're actually going to miss the mark no matter what.
Yeah.
And it won't hit that thing in you and scratch that itch in you.
Or the other
where you
person.
get to feel truly connected.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what we long for in building a business and being a quote unquote good mom, good wife, good husband. It's like you're wanting to get that internal need of connection met. You know, maybe then I'll feel loved.
I was listening to this interview between Chris Williamson, who has an incredible podcast. The guy used to be a club owner and like lived the millionaire, debauchery life, like just all the stuff, right? And he ended up in this place where he was like deeply, deeply depressed and hated everything that he had built and created. And he basically on this journey created this podcast, and it's very popular, very well known. But Chris Williamson is awesome. He interviewed this guy, Amza, and he's a huge influencer, this Middle Eastern looking guy that's really handsome. And they had this discussion, and basically he's highlighting how Amza has basically lost touch with his soul by being others focused and doing all of these things.
You're going to have to finish that thought and then...
Yeah, I'll wait. But most of the influence that he's built, he's built satisfying the people around him and doing it for the influencers to the point where he actually lost touch with who he is, what he wants, what he desires, what makes him him. He's like, I don't even know who I am. And it was just this really cool conversation. I feel like that's what we do sometimes is we live for being the good husband, the good mom, the good like wife, the good friend, the good Christian, the good, and it's all externally driven. We lose touch with who we are at our core when God actually made us to be great at those things by being connected to him and to his love. And we have to trust that truth, that in our true identity and connection to God, we will be greater than we ever tried to do it according to the law. And that's the gospel, is getting us free from the law, getting us free from that demand, and being able to connect just with love in the midst of all of our failures that propels us into our identity.
Yeah, so good, babe. If you are watching the YouTube version of our podcast right now, you're going to be like, whoa, what the heck just happened? Because we had to completely stop our podcast because the baby woke up from his nap, and then we both had to jump into our coaching calls for our Coach Launch program.
And then I got like terribly sick for like 2 days.
Super sick. And so it's been like 5 days, and here we are finishing this podcast. But we're going to wrap up today just with talking about like for me in this season of navigating motherhood and trying to figure out how to balance my capacity in taking care of myself and my baby and love you, and also show up for work and also get things in our house taken care of. Like balancing all of that has been so hard and so new for me. And I think the biggest thing that I'm thankful for is knowing how to connect with my own heart and knowing and being sensitive and aware of when I'm getting depleted. And so like really on a daily basis, it's me checking in and being like, heart, what are you feeling? What do you need? And like, God, how do you want to meet that need? How are you loving me today? And just like staying honest, staying self-aware, and staying connected to love, you know, and every day I have a different capacity based on a lot of different factors, and giving myself grace to not be okay, giving myself grace to be really tired, giving myself grace to not get it done, giving myself grace to not work if I don't feel like I have capacity, you know, and letting go and choosing the posture of surrender, you know, and choosing that posture of like, I'm learning right now and I'm figuring it out. And my only goal is to stay connected to love. My goal is to stay as full as I can. Because I know that that's how I'll get to overflow, you know, and that'll lead to the fullness that I'm craving. You know, like we're all so longing for connection that oftentimes whenever we're like, one of the things that I struggle with is like desiring purpose outside of motherhood. And though that's okay, and it's something that I feel like God's wired me for, I also don't want to try to achieve things outside of motherhood just to get that identity thing met and filled of purpose.
Well, I think it's a slippery slope.
If it's unhealthy. It's like, today, am I wanting to work because I am desiring a way to feel purpose? Am I desiring a way to feel seen by the world, be seen by the people that I'm creating content for? Or am I doing this today because of an actual overflow? And I personally hold myself accountable. Like, I won't let myself function from a place of needing something for identity, you know? So it's just like staying aware and connected and honest and functioning from that place of connection with me and God. And letting that be enough as I grow, as I learn, as my capacity is expanding.
That's super good. I love it. Well, I hope you guys got some good stuff out of this episode. I think it was just fun getting to ask Sammi some questions while I was feeling like absolute trash in my body. It was a good opportunity to be like, oh, let's actually explore you a little bit and what's new and see what kind of vulnerable stuff can come out in your process. But I think when I do that, I think it's always rich getting to hear what you do to process, how you stay full, especially in seasons like this. So I hope it blessed you guys that are listening or watching. And we love getting to make these episodes and this content for you guys. And we hope that it's valuable, that you get something from it. You know, we're we're doing this because we really want to find ways to provide more value to your life. We want to see people unlocked emotionally and have the humanity of, of what it means to experience God in our humanity, in our, places where we still feel broken or we still feel lost, or we're experiencing conflict and things like that, and triggers, and know how to navigate that with Jesus, honestly. And so if there are other questions you guys have, submit those to us. Email us at info@aliveandfreeconsulting. Put it in the comments of the videos you're watching. Put it in your reviews as you're rating and reviewing the podcast. Like, give us more so that we can give you more. It would be super helpful. So if you are hearing this right now, like, actually intentionally do something like that, because it'll help us make more valuable content for you. We love you guys, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
See you later.